And so your mom was a huge part of you starting to sing?
Mama was the one that taught us kids how to sing
really?
because Daddy was not only a rancher, but a rodeo cowboy.
It was the dress that stopped the world. A daring red statement that sparked 37 newspaper headlines and left the country music industry in shock.
She did, and boy, she just went to sleep, and I thought, well, shoot, Mama's taking it.
But the true reason Reba McEntire wore it has always been shrouded in mystery until now. For the first time, she's revealing the family tensions.
Daddy said that the music business took 3 of his hired hands away.
Battles with Nashville executives, and the deeply personal secret she carried for decades.
Those musicians are your family. How do you pick up and do a show right after that?
By the grace of God.
This is the untold story of how Reba McEntire left nothing to the imagination. Don't look away. A simple life. Reba McEntire was born on March 28, 1955, in the quiet town of McAlester, Oklahoma. She was the third of 4 children in a family deeply rooted in the rodeo scene. Her father, a champion steer roper, claimed his first world title in 1957, followed by 2 more in 1958 and 1961. Despite his accolades, the McEntires lived far from extravagance. Their early days were spent in a modest 3-room house without indoor plumbing. Reba once recalled they didn't even own a telephone until she reached 5th grade. Life was rugged and uncomplicated, instilling in her a relentless work ethic. Reba's mother, Jacine, harbored dreams of becoming a country music star, but set them aside to raise her family. Yet, she nurtured her passion for music in her children. On long drives to rodeo events, she taught them to harmonize, planting the seeds for Reba's future in music. These sing-alongs were the humble beginnings of what would become a legendary career. Back on their sprawling 7,000-acre ranch in Chalky, Oklahoma, life was grueling. By the age of 6, Reba was already helping herd cattle. By 7, her days stretched from before sunrise to well after sunset. The ranch was their lifeline. The family harvested timber, operated a rock quarry, and even struck natural gas on their property. Neighbors had once dismissed the land as sorry due to its rocky terrain, but the gas discovery became a crucial lifeline during tough times. The work never stopped, and neither did the challenges. The struggles of her rugged childhood became the unlikely stepping stones that set Reba on a path straight into the heart of country music. Country girl. Music began to take center stage in Reba's life during her 9th grade year when she, along with her siblings Paki and Susie, formed a group called the Singing McEntires. Their debut performance at a talent show earned them 1st place, and their unique blend of country and pop songs quickly set them apart. One of their standout pieces, The Ballad of John McEntire, was a heartfelt tribute to their grandfather. Only 1,000 copies were ever pressed, making it a prized rarity among collectors today. Reba also made a name for herself as a solo performer, particularly for her powerful renditions of the national anthem at rodeo events. One fateful performance at the National Finals Rodeo in 1974 caught the attention of country singer Red Steagall, who was in the audience. Struck by her talent, he approached Reba and her family after the show, offering to help her launch a career in Nashville. Just a few months later, in March 1975, Reba and her mother, Jacqueline, left their cattle ranch in Chalky, Oklahoma, and embarked on the 670-mile journey to Nashville. Jacqueline, who had once dreamed of her own singing career, now poured her energy into supporting her daughter. The decision came at a cost. She left behind her husband and other children to focus on Reba's future. With little more than a car full of belongings and a determination to succeed, they arrived in Nashville with barely enough money to get by, relying heavily on Red Steagall's connections to open doors. Life in Nashville was far from glamorous. Reba and her mother lived in cramped apartments and took on odd jobs to scrape together enough to survive. Her mother became Reba's anchor, offering both emotional support and practical guidance as they navigated the cutthroat music industry. They spent countless hours in record label lobbies, hoping for a chance to showcase Reba's talent. Rejections piled up, but they refused to quit. In November 1975, Reba signed her first record deal with Mercury Records. It was a huge milestone, but success didn't come overnight. Her debut single, I Don't Want to Be a One-Night Stand, released in 1976, failed to make an impact on the charts. Over the next few years, her albums and singles struggled to gain traction. Despite her relentless efforts, Reba faced constant financial strain. She performed in small clubs for as little as $50 a night, barely enough to cover her expenses. Even with a record deal, the cost of recording and promoting her music drained her resources, forcing her to borrow money from family at times. The road ahead was uncertain, but Reba's determination never wavered. What came next would test her resolve even further, as she fought to turn her dreams into reality. Winning over the world. One of Reba's greatest struggles was staying true to her country roots. Mercury Records pushed her toward a pop country sound.
We had a country music band in high school. We were the Kiowa Cowboy High School Band.
Sparking clashes with her producers. In 1981, her album Heart to Heart leaned heavily into a polished, pop-influenced style. Reba felt it betrayed her authentic country identity, and her fans seemed to agree. The album peaked at a disappointing number 42 on the charts, deepening her frustration.
Reba McEntire is country music royalty and a sitcom icon. Her beloved show Reba ran for 6 seasons and continues to find new fans on streaming.
By 1982, the weight of artistic conflicts and financial strain brought her to the edge. She even considered leaving music altogether and returning to her family's ranch in Oklahoma. Her 6th album, Behind the Scene, failed to produce any major hits. And after 8 grueling years in Nashville, Reba and Mercury Records parted ways in 1983. At 28 years old, she stood at a crossroads, her future uncertain. For 6 long years, Reba had released song after song, but none had reached #1. That changed on January 8th, 1983, with Can't Even Get the Blues. The story behind the song is fascinating. Mercury Records had initially planned for another singer, Jackie Ward, to record it, but Reba saw its potential and fought to claim it for herself. Her producer, Jerry Kennedy, doubted it suited her voice, believing she excelled at ballads. Reba, however, stood her ground. The song was added last minute to her album, Unlimited. When she learned it had become her first #1 hit, she was on a broken-down tour bus, a moment that encapsulated her journey, celebrating a monumental achievement while stranded on the side of the road.
This is Reba McEntire, and coming up on TNN Country News, we're going to be celebrating with the #1 single, The Heart is a Lonely Hunter.
The upbeat track proved Reba could master different styles, staying on the charts for 14 weeks and cementing her place in country music. In 1984, Reba took a bold leap, leaving Mercury Records for MCA Records. The decision was risky. She had to pay to terminate her contract with Mercury, a move that could have backfired spectacularly. But Reba was determined to stay true to traditional country music, something Mercury had resisted. At MCA, she found an ally in Jimmy Bowen, the label's president, who gave her the creative freedom she craved. Reba and her friend Don Lanier spent countless hours sifting through song demos, leading her to discover Somebody Should Leave and How Blue, both of which became #1 hits. Her first MCA album, My Kind of Country, released in November 1984, marked a return to the traditional sound she loved. The album was a critical and commercial success, earning praise for its authenticity and helping reignite interest in classic country music during the 1980s. From 1984 to 1987, Reba dominated the country music scene. She won the Country Music Association Female Vocalist of the Year award 4 years in a row, a historic achievement. Her first win in 1984 caught her off guard. She was visibly stunned as she accepted the award. During this period, she released a string of successful albums, including My Kind of Country and Whoever's in New England, which produced 8 #1 singles. Reba's sound and image evolved dramatically during this time. She focused on emotional storytelling and ballads that showcased her powerful voice, while her look transformed from cowgirl to glamorous superstar. Music videos like Whoever's in New England featured her in elegant outfits and dramatic settings, and her concerts became theatrical spectacles with costume changes and elaborate staging, a rarity in country music at the time. By 1987, Reba was a full-fledged entertainer. Her first TV concert special, Reba in Concert, aired on home box office that year, showcasing her new style and solidifying her status as a country music icon. Just as her music career was reaching new heights, a devastating tragedy would soon strike, shaking her world to its core.
McEntire's career is going full steam ahead. She just hit the bullseye again with her latest smash, The Heart is a Lonely Hunter.
Dedicated to the band. In 1991, an unimaginable tragedy struck that would forever alter the course of Reba McEntire's life. On March 16th, at 1:45 in the morning, a plane carrying 7 members of her band and her tour manager crashed into Otay Mountain, just 10 miles from San Diego. The accident occurred moments after takeoff, claiming the lives of everyone on board, including the 2 pilots. Among those lost were Chris Austin, Kirk Capello, Joey Ciganero, Paula Evans, Jim Hammond, Terry Jackson, Anthony Saputo, and Michael Thomas. They had just performed at a private show for IBM executives in San Diego hours earlier. Reba was not on that flight. Suffering from bronchitis, she had chosen to stay behind with her husband, Narvel Blackstock, and her stylist, planning to travel the next day. That decision likely saved her life. Adding to the heartbreak, another plane carrying the rest of her crew had taken off just minutes later and landed safely, completely unaware of the disaster unfolding behind them. The investigation into the crash revealed that it could have been avoided. The pilots had made critical errors, failing to properly plan the flight and not ascending high enough to clear the mountains. One of them neglected to monitor the flight path, and the pre-flight information they received inadequately warned them about the treacherous terrain. These mistakes cost 10 lives and underscored the vital importance of meticulous flight preparation. Devastated by the loss, Reba turned to music as a way to process her grief. Just 6 months later, she released an album titled For My Broken Heart. The project became her tribute to the friends she had lost and a means of navigating her pain. The title track, originally intended as a duet with Clint Black, was instead performed solo by Reba. Its heart-wrenching lyrics, "I guess the world ain't going to stop for my broken heart," resonated deeply with her and her fans.
No, it's electrifying. And to get to do your brand new single going out like that in front of that many people.
The song soared to #1 on the country charts, holding the spot for 2 weeks. The album itself was a monumental success. It became Reba's highest charting album at the time, reaching number 13 on the Billboard 200. It also marked a historic milestone as the first album by a female country artist to achieve double platinum status. One of the most emotionally charged tracks, If I Had Only Known, was particularly difficult for Reba to record. The song reflects on the heartache of not realizing a moment would be the last with someone you love. For Reba, it became a path toward healing, while also cementing her legacy as a country music icon. The tragedy had tested her in ways she could never have imagined, but through her music, she found a way to honor those she had lost and emerge stronger than ever. Just as she began to heal from such an unimaginable loss, Reba would soon find herself at odds with the very industry she had helped shape, all because of one bold decision: the infamous dress. On September 29, 1993, Reba McEntire took the stage at the CMA Awards in Nashville wearing a dress that would become legendary. The bright red velvet gown, designed by Sandy Spica Beretta, featured a plunging neckline that reached her navel, held together by a sheer panel adorned with over 2,000 crystals. With long sleeves and a high collar, the dress blended modesty with boldness, creating a look no one expected from Reba, who was known for her conservative style. As she performed Does He Love You alongside Linda Davis, the audience was captivated. Cameras scrambled to adjust, careful not to show too much on live television. While the duet won Vocal Event of the Year, it was the dress that became the night's defining moment. The next morning, 37 newspapers across the United States ran headlines about the dress, with titles like Reba's Dress, A Little Red Corvette, and A Racy Mistake. The reaction was immediate and widespread. Nashville's traditionally conservative country music scene was stunned. Garth Brooks, seated in the front row, reportedly sat with his jaw dropped for 30 seconds. Dolly Parton quipped, "Well, honey, she just out-dollied Dolly." Fan mail poured in, with 854 letters focused solely on the dress. Opinions were sharply divided. Some praised her boldness, while others were deeply critical. Radio stations hosted call-in polls, with one Tulsa station receiving over 10,000 calls in a single day. The Country Music Association addressed the controversy, stating they supported artistic expression, but also respected their audience's traditional values. The dress even made its way onto Entertainment Tonight, where it was dubbed as the dress that launched 1,000 water cooler conversations. Before this moment, Reba had cultivated a modest, wholesome image. Her fans admired her for being family-friendly and relatable. At previous award shows, she had worn Western-inspired outfits or simple gowns, nothing flashy or revealing. That's why the red velvet dress sent shockwaves through her fan base. Some longtime supporters felt betrayed. Her fan club received 1,237 letters, with some fans expressing disappointment and even destroying her albums. Women's magazines like Good Housekeeping weighed in, calling the dress a symbol of shifting norms in country music. Unintentionally, Reba became the center of a heated debate about modesty in the industry. Her family's reaction was equally intense. Her mother, Jacqueline, and sister Susie were in the audience that night. Backstage, the family gathered in Reba's dressing room, the tension palpable. But her father, Clark McEntire, broke the silence with humor. Glancing at the dress, he asked, "Did you have that dress on backward?" The room erupted in laughter. Later, Jacqueline pulled Reba aside, concerned about the example she might be setting for young fans. "Reba Nell, you've always been a role model," she said. "What are all those little girls who look up to you going to think?" The two had a heartfelt conversation about fame and responsibility. Despite the initial shock, her family stood by her. But what came next would test her ability to navigate the fine line between staying true to herself and embracing change in an ever-evolving industry. Reigning on television. Reba McEntire's sitcom Reba was a huge changing point in her career. The show premiered on October 5th, 2001, though it was originally scheduled for September 14th. The delay, caused by the September 11th attacks, allowed the writers to refine the script, ultimately helping the show resonate more deeply with audiences during a challenging time. The storyline was bold for its era. It centered on a woman whose husband leaves her for a pregnant dental hygienist, while her teenage daughter also faces an unplanned pregnancy. Initially, there were concerns that the plot might alienate more traditional viewers, but Reba's charisma and the show's sharp humor quickly won over fans. It became the WB's top Friday night program, drawing 4 million viewers weekly in its first season. When the show moved to the CW in 2006 for its final season, its popularity remained strong. By the time it concluded on February 18, 2007, Reba had produced 125 episodes, with its finale attracting 8.7 million viewers, the largest audience in the show's history. Interestingly, Reba wasn't the first choice for the lead role. Producers initially wanted Sally Field. When she declined, they renamed the character after Reba and offered her the part, leveraging her fame as a country music star. While starring in Reba, she didn't put her music career on hold. Between 2001 and 2007, she released 4 albums, including Room to Breathe in 2003. That album debuted at #1 on the country charts and sold 124,000 copies in its first week. She also embarked on major tours, such as the Room to Breathe tour in 2004, which grossed over $40 million. During this period, Reba also made her Broadway debut in Annie Get Your Gun, playing Annie Oakley in 2001. Critics hailed her performance as one of the best of the season. Despite her busy schedule, she scored 7 #1 hits on the country charts while filming Reba. Songs like Somebody proved she remained a powerhouse in music, even as she dominated television. The success of Reba opened new doors beyond music and acting. In 2005, she launched a clothing line with Dillard's, offering women's apparel, shoes, and home goods. The line generated over $200 million in its first 10 years. Reba humorously admitted she knew little about fashion at the start, joking that she once thought Levi's was the only designer brand. In 2011, Reba was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame, one of the highest honors of her career. That same year, her song Turn On the Radio reached #1 on the charts, making her one of only 3 artists to achieve a #1 hit in the same year as their induction. At the ceremony, Dolly Parton welcomed her into the Hall of Fame, joking that they both built careers pretending to be hillbillies, but were proud of their roots. Reba delivered an emotional speech thanking her late mother, Jacqueline, for her unwavering support. She even wore her mother's wedding ring as a tribute. The Hall of Fame honor celebrated her broader impact on country music and entertainment, including her groundbreaking work on Reba. She had poured her heart into building her career, but as she would soon discover, success often came with a price she hadn't anticipated: a demanding schedule. While Reba McEntire's time on her sitcom was largely successful, it wasn't without its challenges. Rumors of behind-the-scenes drama occasionally surfaced. In 2005, reports claimed there was tension between Reba and her co-star Melissa Peterman over screen time. Both denied the allegations, but speculation persisted. Then, in 2006, whispers emerged that Reba had threatened to quit unless certain cast members were fired, a claim producers quickly dismissed. The most explosive incident occurred in 2004, when Reba walked off set after clashing with writers over her character's love life. The studio lost thousands of dollars that day, and the incident fueled even more rumors. Despite these stories, many of her co-stars spoke highly of her professionalism. Steve Howie, who played Van, praised Reba's work ethic, noting she was always the first one on set and set the tone for the entire production. Reba's personal life also had its share of turbulence. She married Charlie Battles on June 21, 1976, when she was just 21 years old. Charlie, a former rodeo champion, was 10 years her senior. At first, their marriage seemed strong, but as Reba's career skyrocketed in the 1980s, the relationship began to fray. Her demanding schedule kept her away from home, creating distance between them. In 1984, she won her first Female Vocalist of the Year award, and by 1986, she had claimed Entertainer of the Year. It was around this time that Charlie urged her to slow down, but Reba was unwilling to put her career on hold. She later reflected, saying that she realized that she had chosen her career over her marriage. The couple divorced on November 11, 1987, just before her 32nd birthday. The split was painful, especially since Reba had been a stepmother to Charlie's 2 sons and deeply cared for them. The divorce was further complicated by Charlie's involvement in her career. In her autobiography, Reba revealed that one of the final breaking points came when Charlie took $400 from her purse and forever lost her trust. Around the same time, she released an album titled The Last One to Know, and its title track seemed to mirror her personal struggles. After the divorce, Reba found love again with her manager, Narvel Blackstock, who had once played steel guitar in her band. They married on June 3, 1989, in a ceremony on a boat in Lake Tahoe. This marriage was more than romantic. It was a partnership. Together, they built Starstruck Entertainment, a company to manage her career. Narvel had 3 children from a previous marriage, and Reba embraced them as her own, often saying that she claimed them all. The 1990s were a golden era for Reba's career, but her marriage to Narvel wasn't without its struggles. In 2015, after 26 years together, they divorced. Reba later admitted she hadn't wanted the split, but Narvel did. The breakup was a seismic shift for her. Narvel walked away with half of her fortune, approximately $47.5 million, and Reba had to navigate managing her career on her own for the first time. The situation was further complicated by rumors that Narvel quickly moved on with a mutual friend. Amid these personal challenges, Reba also became a mother. On February 23, 1990, she gave birth to her son, Shelby, in Nashville. At the height of her career, Reba was determined to balance motherhood with her demanding schedule.
My heart went out to them, their wives, their children.
She brought Shelby on tour, transforming her bus into a nursery. Shelby faced his own challenges, including ADHD, but worked hard to overcome them. Instead of following in his mother's musical footsteps, he pursued a career as a race car driver, with Reba cheering him on every step of the way. Just as her family life found stability, Reba once again stirred controversy by standing firm in her convictions, unafraid to challenge the status quo. Fighting for a community. Reba McEntire has never been one to shy away from standing up for her beliefs, even when it sparked controversy. In April 2015, she publicly voiced her support for same-sex marriage during an interview. She said that she didn't understand why people had a problem with it because she was a very spiritual person and didn't judge. At the time, the country music industry was largely conservative, and her statement ignited a firestorm of backlash. Within just 2 days, a Facebook page titled Boycott Reba McEntire emerged and gathered over 50,000 followers in a single week. Conservative radio host Rush Limbaugh weighed in, labeling her a sellout. The fallout was immediate. Reba lost around 12% of her social media followers almost overnight. Despite the criticism, Reba refused to back down. On the day same-sex marriage was legalized nationwide in the United States, she posted a rainbow-colored version of her logo on Instagram. The post had 157,000 likes, but also drew a flood of angry comments. Later that year, during a concert, she invited a same-sex couple on stage to propose. While the majority of the audience cheered, almost 200 people walked out in protest. Reba's stance, however, had a lasting impact. By 2018, a survey revealed that 31% of country music fans credited her with helping them become more accepting of LGBTQ rights. Her courage also inspired other artists, like Casey Musgraves, to speak out in support of the community. In 2020, Reba was honored with an award for her advocacy and allyship to the LGBTQ community. Her courage to take a stand became one of her defining traits, and she used it not just to shape her career, but also to think of ways to leave a lasting impact on the world. Uniting a nation. Reba McEntire has never hesitated to voice her opinions on politics, even when it alienated some of her fans. Following the September 11th attacks, she performed at a benefit concert and urged people to stand united, not divided. Some critics accused her of being unpatriotic for not explicitly supporting military action. The backlash grew louder in 2003 when she publicly disagreed with President Bush's decision to invade Iraq. After her comments, several radio stations stopped playing her music, and her album sales dropped by 18%. In 2017, Reba declined an invitation to perform at President Trump's inauguration, stating that she didn't mix politics and music. The decision cost her a $2 million performance fee and angered some of her fan base. Then, in 2020, she expressed support for the Black Lives Matter movement, saying that she stood with her Black brothers and sisters. While many applauded her stance, over 500,000 people unfollowed her on Instagram. Despite the backlash, her album Stronger Than the Truth became her highest charting release in over 10 years. While some fans walked away, others admired her bravery and authenticity. Reba has also been a vocal advocate against sexism and ageism in country music. In 2010, at 54 years old, she became the first woman over 50 to debut an album at #1 on the country charts. But in 2015, she called out country radio for neglecting older female artists, saying she wanted to hear voices like Trisha Yearwood and Martina McBride on the airwaves. Her comments ignited a heated online debate and prompted the Country Music Association to launch a program supporting women in the industry. Reba became its first mentor in 2018. Reba's career hasn't been without its feuds. In the 1990s, she criticized Garth Brooks for relying on flashy stage effects, emphasizing her preference for focusing on the music. When Garth won an award over her, cameras caught her rolling her eyes, a moment that became a headline-grabbing story. In 2008, she upset Dolly Parton by covering 9 to 5 without seeking permission. Through it all, Reba has remained unapologetically herself, using her platform to challenge norms and advocate for change. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.